Good morning, YouTube. It's your girl, Miss Honey. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today is October 20th, and our topic for today's devotion is choose obedience. That topic comes out of Deuteronomy 30:16. The morning version of Deuteronomy 30:16 is the NAS as in Sam, B as in boy version. And it reads, "In that I command you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in his ways and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that you may live and multiply, and that the Lord your God may bless you in the land where you are entering to possess." The text says the word of God is pretty clear. Though we often want to ignore it or walk away for a while, if we are seeking his wisdom, there is no getting around the fact that we need to choose obedience. The Bible tells us over and over that we are to keep God's commands. If we do so, we will find blessings in our lives. If not, life looks pretty bleak. Pray for a spirit of obedience so that God can increase his blessings in your life. Walk side by side with him today, seeking his will. The prayer for this morning is, Lord, remind me of your commands today. Remind me of when I am overstepping the gracious boundaries that you have given, and remind me that you placed these there to keep me safe. Amen. The evening version of Deuteronomy 30:16 comes out of the New International Version, the NIV, and it reads, "I command you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him and to keep his commands, decrees, and laws, that you will live and increase, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land you are entering to possess." The text says it's not always easy to choose a life of obedience. Our fleshly desires spring up constantly, getting in the way of what we are called to do. In the long run, walking with the Lord is choosing life filled with joy. Our earthly possessions and ambitions will only leave us feeling flat. Choose obedience. Choose joy. The prayer for the evening, October 20th, is, God, forgive me when I have not trusted your way. Open my eyes to see that obedience will bring me joy. As I go to sleep tonight, bless this home, bless my family, and bless my friends, bless my church, bless this land that you have placed me in. The question for ourselves today, October 20th, is that in what ways do you need to experience God's forgiveness tonight? It's a weird question. It's a weird question, I think, because you should consistently throughout your day ask for forgiveness. Not just before you go to bed or when you get up in the morning or whatever, you should consistently, whenever you think about it, ask for forgiveness. I know it seems weird, but I promise you, you need it. Right? It's not just about what we do in this world. Sometimes it's about what we think, how we think, uh, and I promise you, there are thoughts that run through your head that are so unkind and so ungodly on a regular basis. You know, sitting at the red light, in the grocery store, on the freeway, at your job, in church, there are thoughts that run through our heads. Um, and they could be all kinds of thoughts: vengeful thoughts, sexual thoughts, selfish thoughts, criminal thoughts. I mostly stay right in the vengeful area. I have to ask for forgiveness all the time. So, um, yeah, in what ways don't I need God's forgiveness? The question is, in what ways do you need to experience God's forgiveness tonight? In what ways don't I need to experience God's forgiveness? Okay? I am constantly in need of forgiveness, right? Because I am fallibly human. I'm humanly flawed, okay? But let's talk about choosing obedience. Um, Bottom line, we cannot do whatever it is we want to do in this world and expect to be blessed, right? I know we talk a lot about living free, but that doesn't mean that you have carte blanche to um, rape and pillage and murder and steal and kill and covet and, uh, usurp, right? That's not what that freedom is. That freedom is that freedom from caring about what others think, being motivated by what others want, or what the popular crowd is, or uh, living in traditional boxes and spaces and that type of thing, right? Being free is knowing that I am saved by God's grace, right? And that His mercy, grace and mercy be upon me, right? So that no human can come in and say that I am unworthy, because God has already said I am more than worthy, right? I'm so worthy that I will give my you are so worthy that I will give my only begotten Son as a living sacrifice, in death, right? So that's the freedom that we're talking about. But you are not free to just walk this earth and do whatever it is you want to anyone, any kind of way, without repercussions. Obedience is important, all right? The Bible even says that obedience is better than sacrifice, right? So when we say that, it's kind of like saying you can feed 1 million homeless people, hungry people, and build them 1 million homes, right? Uh, that is a sacrificial act, right? But if you do that as a sacrificial act, in martyrdom, I guess, but you're not obedient to His commandments: thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, right? Covet, thou shalt not covet. If God says go right, when you get up here and get to the stop sign, go right. And you say, no, that's the long way around, I'm going left. It is better to be obedient than to be sacrificial. It is better to be obedient even in the smallest things than it is to be sacrificial in this huge, huge way. And I think this is an important point because a lot of people try to balance out their disobedience and their sin by doing good works, right? Doing good works, okay? I remember back in the day, and maybe it still happens, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been in church, but an actual physical building is what I mean in terms of church. But I remember that there were times where drug dealers would come to church and they would, give a grand, big old fat wad of dirty, filthy money. And when I say dirty, filthy money, I mean actually the actual dirtiness of it. You guys, money is filthy, but they would give a big old wad of money and they're going to turn their life over to Christ, and the church would go crazy. They would just be like, oh my gosh, this guy's a drug dealer and yada, yada, yada. And we never see the individual again because they really were just trying to absolve themselves of something that they had done or absolve themselves of the guilt that they felt about things that they've done, right? You cannot give enough. You cannot sacrifice enough, right? The currency of heaven is, I'm not saying the currency of heaven, but the price that you pay if you want to get right is obedience. You see, it's harder than sacrificing. It's harder than just paying the bill, right? Most people would rather sacrifice than to be obedient. Just keeping it real. Just being honest. Most people would rather ask for forgiveness on the back end than permission on the front end because they already know what God's answer is. They already know not to ask because it's in His Word that that's not right, that that's wrong. But still people choose a lifetime of guilt, or they choose to go numb. Because if you do anything long enough, I promise you'll stop feeling guilty about it. It'll become your lifestyle. And I can't tell you what you should be obedient about. I can tell you to keep His commandments. I can tell you that. Okay? I can't get down into your mail and flip through and tell you what the important things are for you to read today. Right? What your past due notices are. I cannot do that. I can tell you that if you feel convicted, it's probably it's probably not it's a no-go. It's a not do, right? And I feel like if there's something that you're afraid to take to God and say, Lord, if this is something that you don't want me to do, or you don't want me to participate in, tell me or remove it from me. I feel like a lot of people avoid that because you like what you're doing. You're enjoying it to a certain extent. You don't want it to end, and therefore you don't even want to discuss it with God. A lot of the things that I have cut out and decided I'm not going to participate in, it's not necessarily that it's a sin, right? But what it is for me is that it has components of things that causes me to sin, that causes me to be disobedient, that puts me in a place where I am no longer reverent, where I am no longer thinking about what God thinks about what I'm saying, what's coming out of my mouth, and how I'm behaving. I forget all about God, and I start acting in flesh. It doesn't matter what he thinks. God knows my heart. He'll forgive me, and I continue on in flesh. So that's why I cut it off at the root. Not telling anybody what to do. Y'all know I don't do that over here. I'm just giving you the best advice, the same advice I would want someone to give me. If it's wrong, cut it out. If it's against his will, cut it out. And I ain't talking about eating shrimp or pork or any of those things, right? we've already know that there are things uh, that come out of the body that harm more than what goes into the body, right? We already know that. So let's not be basic in our thinking. Let's keep our mind open. Let's keep our mind flexible and open to what God is saying here. What I believe God is saying here. Right? So it's not about these things. It's about what really the intent of the heart. It's about getting that flesh together, because that flesh, baby, that's a monster. If you feed him, I promise you, he will grow and grow and grow until he turns around and eats you. Your flesh has to be disciplined, and that's just on period, right? Go out there on that World Wide Web and just scroll through Yahoo News, Google News, huh? Go out there and push the trending button on Twitter, and you will see a whole lot of out of control flesh people. So out of control that they've lost their very minds. They've turned on their fathers and their mothers. Fathers have turned on their sons and their daughters. You got grown men with little babies, right? You got grandmothers being killed and shoved into closets by their grandchildren so that they can go party, right? With no forethought about what you're going to do after the party, and granny's in the closet dead. I'm just keeping it real. I'm just keeping it real. And I'm telling you that flesh, if you don't get that flesh together, everything else is going to be that much harder. And a lot of what obedience is about is getting your flesh under control. Right? That's all I'm saying. My prayer for you today is that you will really, really, really ponder on obedience and what it means in your life. Right? That you will not be divided by the tricks of the enemies that tells you that God is trying to control or trying to box you in, but that you will see the blessing, the joy, the delight in being obedient, the relaxing part of obedience. You will feel and see that. Okay. Because you ain't got to be nervous when you obedient. You ain't got to be looking over your shoulder when you obedient. And so that's my prayer for you today. Listen, I love you guys with the love of the Lord. I hope you know that, and I hope you know that there's nothing you can do about it. I pray that you have an absolutely amazing day. I pray that you are safe and sound, and the same goes for your family. And until next time, honeybees.